Just 8 days into this year, I found myself looking at a wall covered in blueberry yogurt. There was yogurt on the floor, and I was just like about to get really upset with myself. And instead of losing it, all of a sudden I had a realization. I'm Kathy. I'm a transformation agent. I've worked with women over the past 25 years to help them align with themselves. And when you align with you, you have more peace, more presence, and more prosperity, ultimately. So, presence is power. I want you to repeat that if you get. Presence is power. When we're in the middle of worry or overwhelm, we usually try to push it away, or we can judge ourselves for having it, or spiral. And that just makes it stick around longer. So there was a point when I was kind of spiraling around a project, and my mind was telling me I shouldn't be this way. I shouldn't feel this way because I know better, right? And then I had this realization. I decided to try something different. Instead of fighting the spiral of anxiety, I said, welcome. And I started welcoming it. It's okay that you're here. It was like the door was open to it. And in making it okay, in allowing it to be okay, it softened, right? So instead of resisting and pushing against the worry, I just opened the door to it. Like, okay, you're here. And then that's the power of welcoming, because when you stop resisting, you become more present, your body softens, and then you can become present to the messages and the awareness that's available, that the emotion is holding, because you always have awareness. Oftentimes it's covered by, the noise, but your body is wise, and not only your body, your soul is wise, and it's always here. So when you welcome an emotion instead of pushing against it, you can finally meet the moment with ease. And this is where the point of power is. I often tell the story to my clients that when I was growing up, to new clients, I tell this, I had a mom who was super into positive psychology and learned optimism and stuff like that. So when I was in my late teens, I had this little poster on my bathroom door that said, the point of power is in the present. Okay? So when you welcome the worry, you find an okayness with having it, right? You don't have to love it. That's okay. But because you're no longer fighting what is, you're not trapped in a spiral, right? You become relaxed enough to hear the messages that it has for you. What we resist persists. You've probably heard that said before. But what we welcome can finally give us information and finally move and transform. So just imagine for yourself, what would be possible when you no longer resist what arises in your inner world. So if you're ready to experience that shift in a deeper way, I can guide you through that. And you're welcome to book a call with me at the link below. We can walk through it together. Whatever you're going through in your life, the stress, big changes, it's possible to step more into presence and more into alignment with the truth of who you are and your inner wisdom to guide you. Now, to understand and you utilize the power of welcoming, it helps to be at peace. But how do you find this peace when you are, all over or don't have a lot of time to spend on a meditation cushion? In fact, I work with a lot of people who are like, I can't meditate, Kathy. You can. There are ways. And I'll address those in another video. Now, most of us feel we don't have the luxury of doing nothing because our lives are packed. we have family obligations, work, endless laundry, and it's like other stuff. Taking care of our own health isn't always the first priority, or sometimes it is, but it's more like the physical body. Now, so let's go back to the story I was starting in the beginning, where that first week of January, I was just dropping things left and right. So I dropped that yogurt container. I spilled a giant Costco thing of cashews. Thankfully, it wasn't all the way full, but it was full enough that it made a big mess. Even my vitamins. It was like, what is happening? And my natural response used to be immediate irritation with myself, right? Or why is this happening? But what I did in the beginning of the year, because I've learned that, okay, come more into presence, is I use these spills as an invitation for that, right? Drop into the moment. You just dropped something, drop into the moment, okay? So as I cleaned up the cashews or blotted up the tea I spilled, that was another thing I spilled, I used those moments to come into the moment, right? Just cleaning this up, not thinking about a zillion other things. So by taking slow breaths and just taking attention entirely to the task at hand, everything can become a presence exercise, right? That's when I realized even a spill especially a spill, is a doorway and an invitation to slow down. And you don't need to change your life to find presence. You don't need to go to India. You don't need to give up your career, right? Presence is where we are. Okay? You just need to shift your consciousness in your life to find presence by using the small moments, waiting for a web page to load, like that little beach ball thing that happens. Use it to take a slow breath. Waiting for your meal to be ready or delivered. Even sitting on the toilet can be a doorway to relaxing your mind and body, right? It doesn't have to be some huge special moment. You don't have to go anywhere other than where you are. The Buddhists have this saying, before enlightenment, chop wood and carry water, and after enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. And I read that as a 13-year-old or 15-year-old, something like that, and I didn't really get it. But it's really about, you're going to be doing the same things, whether you're enlightened or not. You're going to be eating your sushi or eating your spring rolls. You're going to be having your beverage, drinking your water. You're going to be putting on your shoes, right? And so when you do them with presence, when you honor the beauty in these ordinary roles, you're no longer a victim of your schedule. And the tasks stay the same, but you're doing them with a different level of consciousness. And that's what makes all the difference. And people can feel that, right? When you're given your food with a sense of presence versus when someone just slaps it down on the table. There's a quality to that. When you're given a hug with a sense of presence, it's very different from an automatic, my mind is already somewhere else kind of hug. So it's really about showing up this way. Okay? And you start noticing then that something special is happening. Okay? Because point 3 is that we often stress ourselves by trying to figure out 10 steps ahead, obsessing about who we should be, like by now, right? Or where we should be by now. I'm so guilty of this in my life, right? Like In the past, I used to be like, oh, well, I should be here by now. Well, guess what? You shouldn't be there because you're not. Okay? So that's this crazy story you made up. You made it up. So you have the power. So what actually blocks our clarity and creates force instead of flow, that's what it does. But a different perspective would be to see yourself kind of like on a chessboard. So if you don't like chess, use checkers. But imagine you're on a chessboard, and from your position on that chessboard, you can only see, a few squares. The ones off to the sides, the ones directly in front of you. You do not see a bird's eye view of the whole game, right? But the player, the person playing, does see the strategic moves they can make. They see all the positions of what's going on. This is like your higher self, okay? Your higher self has so much wisdom, and it doesn't have your small perspective. It has a much, much greater perspective. So it has the bird's eye view of the game, so to speak, right? It can hear the whole symphony instead of just your instrument. So the higher self knows where you need to be the happiest, when you need to be there. Okay. And if you're willing to allow that to guide your life, it's amazing, because you don't need to force situations. You don't need to try to get people to do things. You don't need to strive and effort so much. Yes, sometimes effort will be required, right? I'm not saying, if you want to run a marathon, you won't have to train. You do. Sometimes you will have to make that phone call and move through resistance, doing things you don't want to do. But it becomes so much easier because you have a knowing, a sense, a conviction, a seeing, a vision that this is the right thing to do. This is the right action to take. This is what's necessary because you're listening to the wisdom flowing through you. Okay? So you're simply aligning with the now, and the next step naturally arises from flow rather than from force. And it's uncanny. I love watching this in my clients because they'll come back to a session and they'll be like, you'll never believe what happened. I just ran into this person I needed to talk with, or I let go of that old job that didn't work for me and the perfect thing landed in my lap, right? Or clients are coming out from the woodwork, from nowhere. I'm not even doing anything. And yes, that's true, because it's what you're being and you're listening to that inner guidance. You understand that you're meant to be exactly where you are right now. And you're doing exactly what you're meant to be doing. And it's so beautiful when people get that. If you're tired of forcing and ready to move from alignment instead, this is your moment. I'm really excited to invite you to a call, because in that call, we can assess your situation. I can help you see some of your blind spots where you're just not as aware. And through simple shifts, you can realign to listen to that soul's calling and hear the inner wisdom much more strongly. So book a call with me using the link in the description, and let's uncover your next aligned step. Thanks for watching.